What is poppin' people, my name is Shade, and after a long summer of having a life, I've come crawling back to Todd Howard's life accomplishment, The Elder Scrolls V. I'll make no promises regarding future uploads, but I had fun recording this episode, so sit back and relax with a bottle of Honeydew Mead as we return to episode 4 of the legendary pain in my that is. I decided that rather than making this playthrough another average Let's Play series, I'd spice it up a bit, and give our orcish avatar a few challenges to complete. I'm going to be putting down Alduin, eliminating Miraak, completing every faction questline, becoming a Thane in every hold, collecting every Dragon Priest mask, exceeding 1 million gold, and defeating the Ebony Warrior. All, of course, on legendary difficulty, so stick around if you're interested in seeing what we can accomplish. Now, on to the video. Immediately upon leaving the inn, I left Delphine to go hang with the boys. I returned the flute of Jurgen Windex and hit the books before donning my formal attire and being inducted into Tamriel's most vocal biker gang.
You have tasted the voice of the Greybeards and passed through unscathed. High Hrothgar is open to you.
With my homies now satisfied, I traveled to the Whiterun stables in order to gain passage to Markarth.
Where do you want to go? Climb and back and we'll be off.
Now I know some of you might be thinking,
Oh, but Shade, the dragon isn't in Markarth, it's in Kynesgrove, you egg.
yes. However, I am but a weak boiled noodle, and I hit like a wet fart. And when dealing with a dragon, this will simply not do, so I ventured to Markarth in search of a more sinister Unga Bunga stick. Upon arriving at the city of Dwemer Simps, I stepped into the market and clubbed a man to death for looking violent. Because violence means murder, and murder is wrong. A poor traumatized soul came up to me after the incident and asked if I'd seen anything. I apologized and informed him that I must have had my back turned, and he handed me a letter that I dropped like he was a high schooler in a Disney Channel rom-com. Marge thanked me for sparing her life and then made it worth my while by giving me her sister's necklace.
My sister, but I think you should have it.
I resumed my quest for the demonic baby rattle, but discovered that the vigilant who triggers the quest wasn't by the house. Oh. After realizing that the quest had a prerequisite of level 14, I headed into the Understone Keep in order to gather some materials to level up smithing. I witnessed the harassment of the local clergy, and met with a pompous curmudgeon in order to gain access to the Dwemer Museum. He said he'd let me into his secret fun room if I did some exterminator work for him, so I took his keys and grabbed some assets on the way to the Dwemer dungeon.
Enthusiasm. Good. There's the key to the dig site.
Lydia threw herself down into the mines and established beef with a ramp. And after some brief dealings with a few spiders, I made my way into Nimi's lair. I tried letting Lydia tank, but my damage was severely lacking, and when she was down, I fell to Nicole in one hit and realized this wasn't going to work. I tried standing on a ledge and raining down arrows from above, which worked pretty decently until I remembered that I had Berserker Rage and got owned in one-on-one combat. Finally, I decided to use a familiar staff to summon a wolf to tank alongside Lydia, before fueling up on Berserker Rage and pummeling the diabolical arachnid. I informed the wizard that the big bug lay slain, and he granted me passage to his McPlay place.
Excavations for months. As promised, is the key to the Dwemer Museum.
I bought a couple books for later, then headed into the museum to mind the displays. After a lot of quick saving, sneaking, and inventory management, I'd acquired all of the dwarven metal I could carry and equipped Lydia with a new hammer. I was confronted by a courier and hopped down to the mines to smelt all of the dwarven metal into ingots.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Only at this point did I realize that I lacked the dwarven smithing ability. After a few moments of consideration, I trained for as many levels as I could, and then took all of Gonzo's steel and silver ingots away for some alone time. I crafted a steel dagger, which was enough to level me to 11 and allowed me to buy my way to smithing 30. Thanks to the fact that EA runs skill leveling, I was able to put a perk point into smithing and create as many dwarven bows as my iron supply allowed. I sold all of the bows I could to the blacksmith before resetting her inventory in order to buy more supplies to make more bows. As I reached smithing 41, I also hit level 12 and put a point into speech to make more profit off of my bows. I kept one bow for myself and sold all the rest, before I was given a dinner invitation by courier Lydia, and then made my way to Iverstead to claim my coin from Klimek.
Anyway, much appreciated. Here, take this for your troubles.
I ventured back to the Whiterun stables and got a carriage to Windhelm in order to hit the docks and get a ship to Solstheim. I woke up the captain from his frozen slumber and scared him into submission to take me to Raven Rock.
Just a simple sailor. I never wanted to get mixed up in any of this. I'll take you, but we leave immediately. Well, here we are. This is Raven Rock.
I gained good standing with the local law enforcement,
That's the kind of attitude that's going to land you in prison.
and then headed out to the Ashen Wasteland in order to find an upgrade to my armor. I quickly undressed the fallen guard and joined the captain in fending off the ash spawn. I was then reminded that even though I had some improved armor, I still dealt the damage of a tree branch and died in 2 hits. Upon bravely fleeing to a nearby island, I grabbed a pickaxe and got mauled by a pit bull-sized grasshopper. I swam back to the mainland in fear of the weird-looking dog, and returned to town in order to lead the ash spawn back to Raven Rock's finest. With the help of the Redoran Guard, I was able to use my bow and a couple of power attacks to pick off the ash spawn. I reorganized my gear and went to Glove to sell everything I didn't need. But before I could trade with him, he asked me to bully an old man into giving him a pickaxe. I sold him my wares, grabbed some yams, and headed into the mines to take back the ancient pick from Crest Toothpaste. I fueled Crest's delusions, and then used basic kindergarten logic to convince the big baby to give it back. Upon re-entering the outdoors, I found the townspeople distressed, and the guards aggravated.
Look at this dude.
I headed outside of the city walls and found the captain of the guard dealing with more ash spawn, which I made quick work of. I talked the captain into paying me to solve the town's ash spawn problem,
I think I could talk the counselor into paying you.
and we discovered that Raven Rock was at war with General Curious George.
The note says it's from General Folks Carius.
After immediately ditching that quest, because I quake in fear at the power of Curious George, Glove pulled an epic prank on me and told me to keep the pickaxe.
You keep it.
Okay. I accepted, and then began to mash random assortments of ingredients together at the nearby alchemy table in hopes of leveling up another easy skill to reach level 14. I sold my newborns to the local alchemist and went over to House Redoran to borrow their enchanting table. I enchanted as much gear as I could to level up enchanting, and eventually reached level 13 and put my first point into archery. I was 3 levels down, only 1 to go. I headed out to a nearby Reaver hideout in order to level archery and gain some loot. I dealt with the Reavers outside the ship with little issue thanks to Lydia's ability to tank. And I made short work of the archers using my elven bow and Thume. I looted the treasure, got a shield upgrade, and headed back to Raven Rock. I did some more trading with Glove, created more potions, sold more potions, and bought some alchemy levels to get me closer to 14. I realized that the townspeople were once again under attack, and so I turned my eyes to the sky and saved the town from the airborne threat on my first try. I checked around my inventory for any other skill I could use to level up, and discovered the Courage spell in the Illusion tab. I found a guard by the tavern, and cast it on him a few times in order to get myself close to level 14. To finish things off, I created one final potion to boost my alchemy level, and then it happened. I reached level 14. I put a point into blocking, and went back to Skyrim to meet with Dr. Trioris in Markarth.
Excuse me, do you know anything about this house?
I agreed to accompany the Vigilant into the haunted house, and then things got weird. The owners must have forgotten to pay the electricity bill, as the lights were flickering. They must have also forgotten to pay the gravity and daedra bill, because objects began flying around, and a voice in my head demanded that I eliminate Trioris. After disposing of the Vigilant, the homeowners remembered to pay their bills, but I still hadn't taken my meds, and so the voice persisted.
Yes, further into the bowels.
As I went deeper into the bowels of the house, I came across an altar to Molag Ballin. When I approached the altar, I was trapped in a cage and turned into a vibrating ice cream cone. The Daedric Lord sent me off to go pull an epic gamer move on his hater, and so I began the long trek north towards the priest. On my way, I was confronted by Forsworn, but I simply employed the strategy of running past them, with 0 given and 1 arrow taken. As morning approached, I ascended up a hill, admired the first model of the Atom, and was assaulted by a highwayman. The Argonian was surprisingly tanky, so I ran back to Lydia to make it a 2v1 and dispose of the thief. I continued on, crossing rivers, traversing hills, almost losing a fight to a mudcrab, and finally, arriving at the Forsworn camp where the priest was being held. I tried to be subtle with my approach, but Lydia pushed me into battle, so I left her to deal with the Forsworn while I freed the hostage. After a bit of monetary convincing, the prisoner was freed, and I ended the last of the camp's inhabitants. Once we were back in Markarth, I followed the priest back to the altar and waited patiently as Papa Molag caged up the little birdie and gave me his rusty mace. I crushed the priest's bones into a powder using the baby rattle, and once he finally submitted, Molag Bal ended his career and bid me to end his life.
Forsake the weak and pitiful Boethia.
Yes.
You're mine now, Logrov. Kill him.
Lydia got a little too excited and smashed his spine with a hammer before I could end him, but the quest was complete nonetheless, and the full power of the evil Ungabunga stick was now in my hands.
I give you its true power, mortal.
I left the house and made my way to Kynesgrove, knowing there was one last thing I had to do. I watched on as Alduin resurrected Solicanir, all the while staring me down. The dragon took to the skies, Delphine emerged out of nowhere, and I pulled out my bow and started firing.
Nice shot!
After attacking some nearby giants, Solo Kinnear landed, and I could test out my new mace in combat for the first time. I used a mix of shield bashes, potions, and berserker rage to defeat the dragon, and ended up felling the monster without dying once.
Got him! Got him!
I looted the skeleton and confronted Dopamine as she inconspicuously slid down the rock face.
Whatever you want to know. Nothing held back.
She shared her wild elven conspiracy theories with me,
If they aren't involved, they'll know who is.
and then told me to meet her back in her dungeon in Riverwood.
You get there, wait for me.
I traveled back to Riverwood, and as I approached the Sleeping Giants Inn, I realized that this would be a perfect opportunity to call it for this episode. And so I did.